Well, this is a video I've wanted to refrain from making for a very, very long time now, but it seems that with recent developments on this subject, I find I have no choice but to talk about it. So, with further ado, before I get into that, I do want to say this is a game of Walker Assault on Star Wars Battlefront on Survivor's Vendor. I don't quite remember the score I had, but I know it was a pretty decent game for me overall. So go ahead and enjoy that in the background. So, what is this godforsaken topic that I've been asked to talk about? Someone I know who I'm friends with, they asked me if I can make a commentary about this, and regrettably, I don't know if it's regrettably, I was a bit nervous or so. I was nervous to say yes to because it's something that I deal with in my own personal life. I've talked about it very little bit, and I've tried to keep it that way. But I guess not only to have my friend he wanted me to make this, and also because it's something I possibly think could help out in the long run in terms of the human race and the fucking world, I guess. So the topic I'm talking about is suicide. So I have something I pulled up here on Google. I'd like to read it to you all. And it's a little bit outdated. It's from 2014, but God only knows how much that this number has escalated since then. Each year, 34,000 people commit suicide. About twice as many About twice as many deaths as caused by homicide, and about one death per 15 minutes. By 2030, depression will outpace cancer, stroke, war, and accidents as the world's leading cause of disability and death, according to the World Health Organization. That's a pretty big fucking issue, folks. This also shows in the recent celebrity deaths, I guess you can say, of Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington, who, if you don't know who they are, it's kind of hard not to, but I'll say anyway. Chris Cornell was the lead singer of Soundgarden, and who was a really well-known band, not only from the West Coast, but on the grunge scene. And, of course, everyone knows Chester Bennington. Chester Bennington was the lead singer of Linkin Park, and he unfortunately passed away about 2.5 weeks ago, depending on when I upload this commentary. Maybe a little bit more than that, but I could be wrong. So, why am I talking about this? Well, at the request of my friend, as I mentioned before, he wanted me to make this topic about how suicide is a very growing issue in the world today. And he feels like it should be talked about more. I, for one, agree, because it is also something I've dealt with in my own personal life. Now, as I said before, I hate mentioning personal life stuff on here, but it has to work out for the commentary. But before I get into that, I just want to say, man, I've said this in my Depression and Adventures in Votech video. If you do have a problem, please, for the love of God, talk to somebody. It's really depressing because, you see people like Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell and even anyone else who's committed suicide who may have so much talent, and then for whatever reason they throw it all away, and it's a fucking shame, If you ever watched the movie A Bronx Tale, one of the key lines that when I watched it, I just watched it recently for like the first time in full. Like, I watched the movie in full for the first time about a month and a half ago. Fantastic movie, by the way. The worst thing anyone can have is wasted talent. Now, how you decide to waste that talent is, I guess, up to you. But at the same time, it also makes sense because, you have people like Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell who have all this talent, and they just kill themselves. And I don't know. No one knows why, honestly. I don't even know why. I don't know if there was any notes or whatever written to anybody regarding this issue. And just that fact alone is sad. There's no real reason as to why they did what they did. I think Chester did have depression, I think, and a drug addiction. I don't know why Chris Cornell, though. That one still bugs me, and I'll tell you why. Because when you have some of the biggest grunge bands in the world, only one of them still have their lead singer, or who were like the biggest grunge bands in the world for their time. And I'm talking about guys like Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots, Soundgarden, and Nirvana. You know, out of all the 5 people I've mentioned, only one of those bands have their lead singer still. And it's actually kind of even sadder because I think Kurt Cobain, who was also a pretty good, talented guy, you know, in the eyes of the world, he committed suicide for whatever reason. I think that's still something, a topic of debate. But you know, it's just a sad fucking thing, you know. People, you know, there has to be something done more. I'm not saying there's not more stuff done already, but there has to be something even more done to, you know, stop this epidemic of depression and fucking suicide and stuff. Because whether people like to think of it or not, it's still a real thing, you know. I'll tell you this much. I recently, it was before my semester of college ended this past semester when I was working for the radio station. I was at an event, and I was broadcasting with a friend of mine. It was my first broadcast ever, by the way. I was nervous as fuck. But it just so happened that when I dug a little deeper into the event that I was actually looking into, it was an event called Stomp Out Stigma. And it was, you know, basically trying to end the stigma of mental disorders and mental illness and suicide and all that type of stuff. And I said on air that I myself have had this issue, and I've talked to people, and I've talked to people. I've tried to, you know, not think about it as much, but it's, you know, it was a real thing, you know. It's nice that my college, you know, has something like that to, you know, help out other people. We had organizations from across New Jersey and maybe some even more farther up in the East Coast who dealt with that type of, you know, stuff. There were people from domestic abuse. There were people from, you know, mental issues and what else? Eating disorders too was another one. You know, it's at least something is done, at least in my local view, I guess you can say, to, you know, excuse my pun, stomp out the stigma of, you know, mental disorders and this type of stuff. But, you know, it's great, but it's not enough, you know. Something needs to be done more. I myself, I'll talk about my own personal issues. You know, when I was in 6th grade or something, I, you know, out loud I said, and I really didn't mean this, like, I was kind of serious and kind of not serious, but I said, because we were doing something really difficult in class, and it's really fucking dumb when I look back at it in hindsight, but I said, you know, we were learning something in language arts, and it was fucking hard. So I said to my teacher, I would rather die than have to learn this because I hate it so much or something like that. And she looked at me and she was like, gave me a face, and she's looking at me like, Matt, come out with me. And I went to the what do you call not therapist. I went to the guidance counselor. I went to the what else? I went to a therapist that same day. They actually made me leave school. They made me. They made me leave school because I said that, and that's pretty fucking scary. I've done that maybe twice or 3 times in my life because I said something out loud like that, and I regret saying anything because I never want to go back to a fucking therapist or a fucking mental hospital section of a hospital. It's fucking, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I fucking despise it. I don't even want to think about it, but I have no choice. What else, you know? And then when my grandmother on my father's side passed away, and when I was in 7th grade, I lived the rest of that year, not just the year, I don't even know what year it was, not just that year as a whole, but just like my whole school year, and it's something I still bugs me to this day. I lived a life of regret, and that I never really saw her much because she was sick and all that type of stuff. And maybe sometimes she just didn't want company. Like, we barely ever seen her. Like, we maybe saw her once or twice, maybe every 2 years. And we saw her more often, unfortunately, when she was sick, and she probably didn't even know what was going on. And that just broke my goddamn heart. And I said to myself, you know, I wish I could die so that I could, you know, at least spend more time with her, and I lived that life of regret for a very long time. I mean, it's something I still haven't fully gotten over, but it's something I could it's something God, I'm sorry. I really am sorry, folks. It's not, yeah, it's just so fucking sad. It really is. And then luckily for me, you know, and there's been more issues that I've had, you know, regarding suicide and depression. I know people who, it's not just me either. I've known people who self-harmed. I know people who go through depression and anxiety and that type of stuff, including the friend I mentioned who wanted me to make this video. You know, it's a real fucking issue, you know. And some of my friends, actually my friend, I'll mention her name because she's a fucking saint. As long as I've known her for me. My friend Taylor, she was always somebody I can talk to about my problems. And when I talked to her, I always felt better and shit. And you know, she also helped out other people, and she even told me once, she said, you know something, like helping people like you and stuff, maybe want to change my major and to go into like psychology or something. It was something similar to that of therapy work. I don't know exactly what I don't remember exactly the name that she called it, but she told me that. I was like, wow, I actually fucking made somebody do a major where she wants to help other people like me. And I don't know if I was honored, or I think it was an honor for me, honestly, because well, hell, she could probably even be a new therapist or something for me. I don't know, one day, depends. But it's just you know, so, and it just goes to show, no matter who you are, if you have those types of issues, you really should talk to somebody. I don't give a fuck if it's a therapist, family member that you trust, you know. What else? A family member, a friend, like I have. I kind of confide more into my friends than I do my family, because I hate to be judged by my family. Because they've dealt with enough of my bullshit trying to do that. The last thing I want to do is burden them anymore. I know it sounds really fucking horrible to say, but the last thing I've wanted to do is burden them regarding that type of stuff. And you know, it's kind of something, stuff like this is something I like to confide more in my friends than I'd rather do my family. You know. And don't get me wrong, I mean, it's not like I'm fucking cured after talking to people, you know. There are still, like, stuff that I'm depressed about. Like, I've been bummed about some certain shit that I won't get into much because it's really not any of the internet's business. No disrespect to y'all. But, you know, I've been bummed about something the last few months. It's really made me really sad. And I've talked to a few people about it, but no matter what I try and talk about, it still lingers in the back of my mind. And it's something I've been constantly bugging me pretty much every day for since April. It's just, oh god, it's fucking horrible. It really is. I wouldn't wish certain shit like this on my worst enemy, because it's fucking just bad. It's just, why would anybody want to? I wouldn't wish this on anybody, you know. And it's not just that, you know. If you are thinking of committing suicide and shit because of whatever reason, the one thing you should think about is, what's your family gonna think about, you know? What are they going to do without you? You know, it's something, think about, like, maybe, like I said, a close family member, whether it's your mom, your brother, your sister, your grandparents, or whatever. How are they going to feel when you eventually leave them the way you want to leave them? It's really, you know, why would you want to do that? You know, it's really fucking sad, to be honest. You know, don't do that, because you're also a burden. It's also going to be hard on your family as well. You know, you may not feel pain, but the pain people feel after that is just as bad. Depending on what you do, of course. God forbid anyone does anything. What else? There was a few other things I wanted to mention. Excuse me, I'm just going on. I don't ever write my commentaries like this down. The only thing I actually ever had noted out was that little passage I had at the beginning of the video for you guys. But no, what I did just remember, though, is my friend Taylor once actually sent me a 5-Finger Death Punch song. It was called Coming Down. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Coming Down. And the video was about suicide, and the song, I don't really know if the song itself was about suicide, but I know the video was dedicated to that type of thing. And I watched this video, and I'm like, I was scared for my fucking life for some reason. Like, the video itself scared me. I don't know if it scared me to not to do anything, or it just scared me with what was going on in the video. And I have not listened to that song or have watched that video since. I know if another friend of mine, or someone I know, they've sent me a video, a Skillet song. I forgot the name of it though, but it was a nice gesture of her to send me that, because she was worried about me when I talked to her about that shit. I was just fucking, you know, let's be honest. When I was in middle school and high school, I was a fucking mess because I didn't really have any friends. You know, I didn't. There are certain things that have kept me from not doing anything, and one of those, believe it or not, is watching wrestling and shit, you know, or playing video games. Like, when I watch wrestling or play video games, I'm pretty fucking happy most of the time. Well, most of the time, unless I'm playing some Battlefield, unless I'm playing unless I'm playing really shitty or something, I get really pissed off. But you know, everybody's gonna be pissed off about that type of stuff. But you know, even watching wrestling, because I love watching wrestling. That's like my escape. You know, watching, no matter what type of wrestling it is, even though I don't watch WWE anymore, I still watch some of the old shit that they used to do and all that. And it's a nice escape because it takes you out of, you know, whatever funk you're in, and and you just sit there and relax, you chill out, you watch some great matches. You know, it's great. You know, I also look to hardcore wrestling and shit for that type of stuff too, because I fucking love hardcore wrestling. Like ECW on the WWE Network, one of the best things I've seen in a long time when I started watching WWE Network stuff. And yeah, so and another thing is YouTube. You know, YouTube also helped me with that type of stuff too. You know, because YouTube gives me something to do, basically. You know, it's a hobby, as I always say. I don't consider it my job because it's something I like to do in my free time. It's not that I don't want to get big or anything, but it's something I like to do in my free time, to where, you know, it's not so much about earning money, it's about entertaining people and expressing my views on things such as this. So, if I can give any advice to people watching this who may be going through some shit, I highly advise that you know, do something that you enjoy doing, you know, like do something that gets your mind off that type of stuff, you know, because I guarantee it'll probably help you out in the long run. For a while, it's helped me out, even though I still have an issue every now and again, you know, it's still, oh, God, that was the stupidest thing. I fell into a fucking crack in the map. I hate doing that shit, but, yeah. Just do something you enjoy, you know, watch Netflix, watch wrestling if you're into that type of stuff, play video games, do whatever gets you not thinking about depression or whatever, or suicide or whatever. Because I guarantee if more people did that, there'd probably be less suicides. At least I hope there would be. So, yeah. And now, I guess this is the part where it comes down to the end. You know, this gameplay is pretty much coming to an end. And I just want to say thank you all for giving me this opportunity. Thank you to my buddy, who will remain nameless because I think he wanted it that way. I want to give a shout out to my buddy for you know, giving me the idea for this topic. You know, it was actually quite relieving to talk about that type of stuff, because I hope anyway that it'll help other people in the future not do what they're planning on doing. So I think all in all, I just don't want to. The last thing, if I ever heard a friend of mine or whatever committed suicide, you know, I'd be fucking heartbroken that I couldn't do anything. The one thing you should do is try and spot what the issue is with your friends or family or whatever, and try and help them the best you can. I think that goes a lot unnoticed in today's world. For whatever reason, people miss the signs, and when they miss the signs, bad shit happens. You know. But with that being said, you know, whatever y'all do, don't commit suicide. It's a horrible thing, you know. We all need to, you know, do better to end the stigma, you know. There's a lot of people I know that do that, and so could you. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you all soon. Later.